Would you describe yourself as an overthinker? Or do you find yourself getting overly anxious about problems, decisions, or just maybe everything? Well, let me tell you this, if you do, you wouldn't be alone, because researchers suggest that over 70% of 25 to 35-year-olds, 52% of 45 to 55-year-olds, and about 20% of 65 to 75-year-olds, guess what? They overthink. And with overthinking being a cause of stress to the body, severe anxiety, depression, and the lack of ability to problem solve, it makes sense that we face it head on and become better at dealing with it. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 ways that you can stop overthinking, and also that you can put into practice straight away. And one of which is arguably the most important thing that you can do, not only to stop overthinking, but that could literally change your life. So let's dive in. Hi, I'm Nick, and I'm a husband, dad, pops, registered counsellor, and certified coach. And on this channel, I share tips, ideas, and practical tools designed to help you manage, grow, and succeed in life. If you're committed to your ongoing personal development and you really want to take steps to living your best life, then you're in the right place. So subscribe and click on the bell icon so you can be notified of all future videos that I put out. But before we get into it, if as part of your personal growth you'd like more clarity about how you want your life to look in the next few years, then be sure to download my free 5-step guide to creating your ideal future. I'll put a link to it in the description. Well, firstly, what is overthinking? Well, to get started, let's be clear that overthinking is a learned behavior, which over time can become a habit. And because it's a behavior, if you struggle with overthinking, you can, with effort and with time and with patience, change it if you really want to. In other words, with commitment and focus and effort, you can learn to cope with the challenges, problems, and uncertainties that life will certainly throw at you, but in a healthier way. And you can become more confident in your ability to make safer and better decisions. So what causes overthinking behavior? Well, to help address your overthinking, it can be really helpful to consider what could be a cause of it. And this is where remembering that your adult behavior has been heavily influenced by your childhood experiences is really helpful and really important. So this would include things like where you grew up or the environment you grew up in, what you were exposed to, and also the parenting style of your primary carers. For example, if you were raised by overly critical parents or you experienced some kind of early childhood trauma, you are more likely to be an overthinker. And other examples of what might have led to you being an overthinker now are things like growing up with little to no boundaries, being overprotected, or being overindulged as a child, or having low self-esteem. So why is it important to start managing overthinking? Well, as an adult, being aware of the impact of overthinking is going to be key to your health, because if you don't develop healthy ways of coping, you'll run the risk of negatively affecting your overall well-being. Now, we know that some of the long-term effects of overthinking include things like procrastination and loss of productivity. I bet there's no surprise there that procrastination and loss of productivity comes out of overthinking. Then there's issues of relational problems, lack of creativity, self-esteem issues, anxiety, and in worst case scenarios, pessimism, which can lead to depression. So it goes without saying that overthinking has the potential to derail your life. So if you really want to move forward without the struggle of overthinking every issue, problem, and every single decision, here are 5 things that you can try doing straight away. Firstly, try writing it out. You see, the thing with problems and keeping them circulating in your head is that you'll limit your ability to see things as they truly are. Writing out what you're thinking about can help you clarify the problem and start to give thought to how you might start to solve it. Just stating the issue and journaling your thoughts, feelings, and concerns can be a really good place to start. And if it helps, you can also share them with someone you trust, or a coach or counselor who might even be able to help you to see things from a different perspective and explore any options, solutions, and possible ways forward. Which leads us nicely onto the second thing that you can do to stop overthinking, which is to get clear about your options. Because you see, one of the causes of overthinking your problems could be that you don't know what's really available to you. The thing is, by not taking the time to seek advice, research, and consider the extent of what's realistically available to you, you'll limit yourself to the ideas and solutions you come up with in the first instance whilst feeling stressed. And this isn't always helpful, because stress can actually inhibit your executive functions, which are the parts of your brain that help you to get organized, work productively, and remember information. Thirdly, if you want overthinking to stop having a huge impact on your well-being, try changing the direction of your thinking. In other words, instead of focusing on what could go wrong, start to imagine what could actually go right. You see, your brain is so powerful. It's so powerful that it's able to make you feel and act according to what it imagines. And knowing this can be used to your advantage because it means that you can change the way you feel by adapting what you imagine. In other words, instead of feeling overly anxious and stressed by focusing on what could go wrong, you could start to be filled with a sense of hope, optimism, determination, and even excitement by starting to think about what could go right. Okay, before we move on to the last 2 ways to stop overthinking, do me a favor and just take a second to let me know if you're finding value in this video by clicking the like button. Your click makes a huge difference because it lets YouTube know that I'm offering something of value. So go over there, the little button with the thumb, click it now. Thank you. Okay, a fourth and arguably most important way to stop overthinking from causing absolute chaos in your life is to develop a growth mindset. Now, I do explain a little bit more about what a growth mindset is and also how you can develop one in another video, which I'll put a link to somewhere on the screen. But essentially, when you have a growth mindset, you'll give yourself permission to accept that some of your decisions will be great, some not so great, and others being fairly poor. But that with each decision you make comes an opportunity to learn and grow, and that's the most important thing. Another way of looking at it would be to say that as you accept that nothing is perfect, overthinking will be less of a barrier to you. Because after thinking about your options, you'll be much more likely to make decisions without fear of what could go wrong. Okay, number 5 is to catch it quickly. You see, the thing about overthinking is that once it starts, it's really difficult to stop. And the longer it continues, the more paralyzing it can become. So a 5th way to stop overthinking is to catch it quickly. You see, learning to recognize and challenge your overthinking habit will give you a much better chance of dealing with it. As if it's left to its own devices, your brain by default will do what it's been trained to do. In other words, if it's used to thinking about the worst case scenario and causing you to feel anxious, pessimistic, and eventually depressed, then guess what? That's what it will continue to do if left unnoticed, unchallenged, and untrained. Okay, so there you have it, 5 ways to stop overthinking. Let's do a quick recap. 1, write it out, as defining your problem and how you feel brings clarity. 2, explore your options, as this will shift you towards problem solving. 3, change your thinking direction, as your thoughts will impact your feelings. 4, develop a growth mindset so you can learn to prize progress over perfection. And 5, catch it quickly, because the only way to change a habit is to be proactive. But before we end, it's also important to note that overthinking can, in some cases, become so intrusive and distressing that it affects your ability to function on a day-to-day basis. If this, by any chance, is true for you, it's really important that you get help from a trained therapist or medical professional, as they'll be able to help you determine which worries are productive from which aren't. Okay, we've reached the end of this video, so here's a quick question for you to consider. Which of the 5 ways to stop overthinking covered in this video do you believe could be most helpful for you? You know I love hearing from you, so take a moment to share in the comments. Also, if you found this video helpful, please click the like button, subscribe, and click on the bell icon so you can be notified of future videos. Thank you so much for watching. Rooting for you. Be well.